I'm Dr. Christopher Barker, and welcome to Holding Space. Speaking of holding space, today we're going to take a look at something that's a slightly different way of examining feelings. A lot of times people come to therapy wanting to get rid of a feeling. They want to get rid of depression, they want to get rid of anxiety, they just want to flush those feelings, not have them exist. As painful as they can be and as difficult as they can be to deal with, you have all your feelings for a reason. Sometimes depression signals of caring about where you currently are in your life or a difficulty with being where you are. We want something to change. Anxiety has to do with being aware and anxious and afraid of something that's going on. We have these feelings for a reason. Anxiety stops us from doing silly things like picking up rattlesnakes and throwing rocks at policemen. An example I always use with people. It's normal. It's human. And humans have a lot of feelings. And it is okay to have all your feelings. How many times have we heard people say, don't feel that way? Well, that's ridiculous. Don't feel that way. How can people tell you how to feel? You feel however you feel. And one of the things that we can do to deal with this is to look at feelings in a slightly different way. Instead of wanting to shut away or flush anxiety, embrace it. And what do I mean by embrace it? How do we kind of hold that closer? We generally want to get as far away from those types of feelings as we can, but they have a place in our lives also, and we want to give them some credit, examine them, see where they're coming from, see if changes need to be made. And there is a type of therapy that works with this. It's called ACT, or acceptance and commitment therapy. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute to give you a brief overview of what that means and how to use it. But I found that often we can benefit a lot from a sort of Zen-like approach to life. Being here now is crucial to all of this. And being able to be completely here and to be completely focused in who we are at the moment is critical. I took a course longer ago than I would care to admit at the New School for Social Research. I was getting a master's degree there. And they have some really unusual courses. And one of them was a course called East-West Perspectives on the Ego. And it was taught by a Buddhist monk who had trained with Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, who's quite a well-known practitioner of Zen. And he wrote about cutting through spiritual materialism. That is the tendency that we have to look at spirituality as a way of bolstering our ego. And we've all seen people like this, who have a tendency to use spirituality as a way of defining themselves or feeding ego. Ego, from an Eastern perspective, is not necessarily a good thing. In the West, we tend to see ego as being our entire selves. Ego is a distraction in the East, and in Buddhist practices and in Zen, ego is not something that you really want to use to define yourself. Who you are is what you are now. And one of the hardest things that it was for people to identify in that class was the idea of just being thoroughly there. The idea of, and I know at one point somebody gave an example of if you're washing dishes, wash the dishes. And somebody else said, does that mean be the best dishwasher? No, that's ego. You don't want to feed that. That's not going to help you to try to be the best. To be there with the dishes, to be thoroughly mindful, and this is where mindfulness comes in. A lot of these concepts are things that have come from CBT and DBT are old. They are older than psychology itself, and we're just taking some very old practices and putting them to some new uses. So being able to be Zen-like and approach the here and now is really critical. There's a Zen riddle that is often used, and I remember we talked about it in that class. A monk is walking in the forest one day, and he hears stealthy footsteps behind him, He looks around cautiously. Being in the forest, you never know what's behind you. He happens to see a tiger following him. He says, uh-oh, and he starts to walk a little faster, thinking maybe the tiger's just out for a stroll and he's not really going to do anything. The tiger starts walking faster, and then pretty soon the monk starts to run. The tiger starts to run. He runs to the edge of the forest, and he comes to a chasm that separates him from the other side by too great a distance to jump. And he looks to the left, the chasm continues. He looks to the right, the chasm continues. It's more like a canyon at this point. The tiger is still coming up behind him, and he looks down and says, well, if I manage to jump, there's another tiger at the bottom of the chasm. So as he looks down, he sees the only thing there is a strawberry bush with a single ripe strawberry on it. He jumps and grabs hold of the strawberry bush. What does he do next? You may already know the answer to this, but I'll give you the answer at the end. Something to hold on for. One of the things that we do with acceptance and commitment therapy is we look at values. Your values play a crucial role in guiding your behavior and your decision-making process. We try to behave in accordance with the things that we believe, the things that we love. We look at different life domains for consideration: love, honesty, adventure, authenticity, reliability, integrity, respect. All these things are values that we would want to consider as being something to work towards and embrace. That's the commitment part of it. The commitment is to your values, to being the most in touch with your values that you can possibly be. It's not as easy as it sounds, because sometimes we don't give a whole lot of thought to what we really want to do. We think about what we want to accomplish, and that's not a way of being here now. That is a way of working towards something, towards feeding ego. Acceptance means helping you stay focused on the present moment and accept your thoughts and feelings without judgment. So if you are feeling anxious, because that's one that a lot of people are dealing with right now, in this hectic world, we tend to be anxious about a lot of things. They use an example. I know I took a workshop on this not too long ago. They use an example of having something separating you from other people. Now, let's say you're in a relationship with somebody and you're having anxiety, and that keeps you from really seeing them. It's like holding a finger up in front of your face, and like, if I hold it really close, I can't see you from around the finger. However, if I lower it, it's still there. I still have my hand, still have the finger, but I can see you better. This is being able to accept the fact that the anxiety is there, that it's something that we deal with, that it's something that may play a crucial role in our lives, but it's not playing a really important role right now if I want to have an authentic interaction with you. So keep in mind that the things that stand between us and other people can become all that we see. And we want to be able to recognize that it's still there. I still have all my fingers. Be able to see around it, not get rid of it, see around it. Commitment to healthy, constructive activities that are in line with your values and goals first identifies what are your values and goals. What are the things that you most want people to think of when they think of you? What is it important that you fulfill? What is it important that you be true to? Integrity is good. Honesty is really important. Communication, that's something that often solves a great deal of problems. Being able to focus on a relationship with a person and being able to communicate honestly and with integrity and to be able to be fully there with the other person is rare and beautiful. It's something that is hard to achieve if you're trying. It's something that's easier to achieve if you know where you're headed and if you know what your values are. You automatically sort of drift in that direction. But things get in the way, and those things that get in the way, we want to just work around them. This is a hard thing for a lot of people to accept. Hardships, stressors, things that get in the way, they can bring on unhealthy levels of anxiety, upset, depression, lack of integrity. We sometimes find ourselves so busy acting a role that we're not able to actually be who we really are. And being able to be who we really are and being able to be there with ourselves is so important. I want you to think about times that you've been able to use mindfulness to be more in touch with what you're doing and where you're going. Things will get in the way. There will be distractions. If you have kids, there's going to be a million distractions. If you're in a partnership, there's going to be a million distractions. If you have a job, there's going to be a million distractions. But these are the things that we accept as being something that we do. We very much are centered in that thing at the time, but we try to sort of see around whatever we're doing to our ultimate goal and in keeping with our values. This is so, so important. And that's why I want to introduce you to this idea. Being able to be here now and be fully invested in what you're doing is a form of mindfulness. One of the things that can get in the way of being able to be here now is obsessive compulsive disorder. And again, this is another term that is thrown around almost too often. Obsessive compulsive disorder, so a lot of people have obsessive compulsive types of behaviors. It becomes a disorder when it gets in the way of your having a healthy and productive life. But obsessive compulsive disorder is a mental health condition characterized by unwanted thoughts. These are the obsession. We call those ego dystonic because they're not in keeping with who or what we normally think of ourselves as being or doing. And these obsessions can create compulsive behaviors, and those compulsive behaviors can get in the way of us having any kind of productive life. We can stop and check the lock so many times that we're half an hour late for an appointment. And I have worked with people who have actually, it seems unusual, but it's actually more common than you would think. One of the obsessions that a lot of people have is that they've done something wrong. And so they have to go back and retrace their steps and make sure that they haven't done something wrong. Frequently, it involves, I was driving too fast. Did I run a car off the road? It was kind of a narrow road. And what if I did? So they go back and they check. And what if it wasn't here? What if it was somewhere else? And they have to go back further and check. And sometimes it's like an extra hour out of your way just to go back and check and make sure that you haven't done anything bad. The fear of doing something bad is not in keeping with your values. Your values are to be honest and helpful. But again, the obsessive thought is that what if I haven't done that? And so then you act on the compulsion. That's medication can be useful for that, but there's a lot that you can do by just being aware of that and by changing your behavior. Again, we'll probably talk about that in future episodes, talking about cognitive behavioral interventions for things. But right now I want to focus a little less on therapeutic techniques for specific disorders and just kind of like ways of living. Because ways of living with integrity and ways of living with love and with honesty are really valuable things. We want to be able to have those things. We want to be able to see around those obstacles. We want to be able to see around those feelings. Where are you? You're over there. Okay. Still here. Still got the anxiety. But we can move it to the side. We can accept it as being part of us. We can accept it as being part of this moment, but it doesn't have to interfere. So when we're holding space, let's hold space for our feelings. Let's hold space for each other. That's really important right now. And live in accordance with your values. Live in accordance with the goals that you want for yourself. Not because you're trying to make yourself into something that you're not, but because you're trying to make yourself into who you are. You're trying to be more fully you. That's been holding space for now, and I will see you next time. And in the meantime, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to make comments in the section below or do our email, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you.